Dear Usha, I welcome you on behalf of the chairman of the CSMVS and trustees and the Director General, Mr. Sabyasachi Mukherjee, on behalf of my committee at the Museum Society of Bombay and all our friends and guests who have joined us here today. I really appreciate that you're giving us this talk. I know you're extremely busy with all your commitments and writing schedule. So it's doubly appreciated by all of us that you could take this time off and speak to us this evening on what I know, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a very, very interesting talk. I've seen the slides, and it's a combination of many things and many objects that Usha has brought together for this evening. I'd like to say a few words about my dear friend Usha, who I've known for, some of you must also know her, and I've known her for a very long time. Dr. Usha Balakrishnan is an art historian and a curator based in Mumbai. She is highly regarded independent scholar of Indian art and culture and a preeminent historian of Indian jewellery. She is the principal curator of the World Diamond Museum and serves on the expert committee of Kerala Museums. Usha's own PhD was in ancient Indian culture, and she has a postdoctoral degree in museum studies from New York University in the USA. She has worked at the Brooklyn Museum, New York, and was the Indian representative for Sotheby's, the international auction house. She has several publications to her credit. A few of them, the iconic one that I refer to is Dance of the Peacock, Jewelry Traditions of India, on the 5,000-year-old history of Indian jewelry. Jewels of the Nizam, the first publication on the renowned collection of Royal Indian jewelry and the treasures of the Deccan, Jewels of the Nizams, which brings together fabulous jewels from all the Nizams of Hyderabad from around the world and rare archival photographs. Some other publications include Enduring Splendor, Jewelry of India's Thar Desert, Alamkara, The Beauty of Ornament in India, Jewels that Enchanted the World, Splendors of the Orient, Gold Jewels from Old Goa, Icons in Gold, Jewelry of India from the collection of the Musée Babi Emula, and most recently, Diamonds Across Time. Her curatorial projects are several. Alamkara, as I mentioned earlier, The Beauty of an Ornament, the Jewelry Gallery at the National Museum, New Delhi, India, Jewels that Enchanted the World at the Moscow Kremlin Museum, Enduring Splendor, the Jewelry of India's Thar Desert at the Fowler Museum, University of California, Los Angeles, and Shringhara, Adornment, the Jewelry Gallery at our very own CSMVS, which opened just before the lockdown in 2020. We have with us a real scholar, a specialist in the subject of jewelry, gems, and gemology and artifacts that she has studied and documented over the years. And in this lecture, I don't want to stand between Usha and you. She's going to raise certain significant questions about the nature of jewels, their meanings, their relation to the human body, the spiritual body, and even the cosmos, to better understand the role of gems and jewels in the theater of adornment. These questions require an interdisciplinary approach and new ways of thinking about ornament and adornment. So I don't wish to stand between all of you and Usha. So I'm going to hand you over to Usha to proceed with this evening. But before I do that, I couldn't do all this, ladies and gentlemen. We wouldn't be here either unless we had our young and very, very innovative Zoom team to conduct it for us. And I thank Jason, who heads this team, Aishwarya, Mrinalini, and Yashraj, who have joined us since May 2020 for all our talks. So thank you very, very much, tech team. And I hand Dr. Balakrishnan over to you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Firoza. Thank you, the Museum Society. Thank you, Mr. Sabyasachi Mukherjee and the CSMBS for inviting me this evening to talk to you all about jewelry. I mean, over the last 1.5 years, over the long period of lockdown, I have been giving a lot of lectures, but this one is particularly close to my heart. It's for the Museum Society, right here in Mumbai for the CSMBS. And as you just mentioned, Firoza, the jewelry gallery that opened literally a week before we all went into lockdown. It was a great privilege and a proud moment when I was invited to curate the jewelry gallery at the CSMBS. And even more proud for me to say that it is the only jewelry gallery in India, whether it's a museum, a public institution, or a private institution. The CSMBS Gallery of Jewelry is the only one of its kind in this country, in a country with a 5,000-year tradition of Indian jewelry. And even more so is the fact that the jewels in the gallery are not royal jewels. They are not the jewels of the Maharajas and the emperors of India. The vast majority of jewels that are on display in the gallery are jewels that are worn by the indigenous, ethnic, tribal, pastoral communities of India. And these are jewels that are really fascinating because they have endured over time, and they display some of the most beautiful design and craftsmanship techniques. So without much ado, thank you once again. I am going to share my screen so that I can start talking to you about the topic that's on hand for today. So my talk this evening is titled Beyond Adornment, the Protean Nature of Jewels. Now, to all of us, to many of us, jewels are mere objects. They are material things that can be seen and touched. They are made up of metals, gems, and a wide variety of other materials. But jewels and gems are, to me at least, more than just beautiful objects. As the term Protean suggests, they are kaleidoscopic, multifaceted entities. And in the course of this talk, I will draw your attention to the Protean nature of Indian jewels. Jewels were a compelling indicator of status, of tribal affiliation, caste, religion, and region. They conveyed marital status, rank, and wealth. Gems were worn for an individual's emotional well-being, in the belief that they protected the body and the soul. Jewels were important markers of the samskaras, or the stages, the various stages in an individual's life. Jewels played, and even today play, a very important part in a rite of passage rituals. Jewels exalted virility. They accentuated femininity. And importantly, as a historian, the political, economic, and social histories of this land and its peoples are actually embedded in jewels, in our jewels. Therefore, as a jewelry historian, I study jewelry as a societal artifact from a multidisciplinary perspective. As an economic, political, and social historian, as a cultural anthropologist, as a gemologist, of course, and above all, as an aesthetician studying the nature of beauty, because indeed these are beautiful objects. I view jewels from the perspective of the people who wore them, the goldsmiths and silversmiths who made them. I study material and physical form and meanings that are embedded in the iconography of designs. And as Firoza said earlier, their relationship not only to the physical body, but the spiritual body and the cosmos beyond. So for my first slide, the jewel that you see on the screen is an Aigaloo, also known as a Shivadhara or a Chauka, Lingam casket. It compellingly illustrates the Protean character of jewelry. Visually, the jewel on top is a striking object. It divides into two halves. It has a miniature Nandi, bull seated on top. It is fashioned from rock crystal and decorated with rubies and emeralds set in gold. The silver casket below is, in contrast, strikingly simple, made from silver with finely worked gold fittings. Both visually are beautiful objects, but it is the form of the jewel and what lies hidden inside that hollow casket that has a deep cultural meaning. The egg-shaped Aigaloo is a metaphor for the golden egg, the Hiranyagarbha, the supreme creator. And inside the casket, there is a lingam, and you can see a tiny little lingam on the side, a solid ovoid stone, which is an aniconic representation of Shiva. The jewel is exclusive to the Lingayat community, and you can see two members, a male and a female member from the community on the right, and both of them carry the Aigaloo, are wearing the Aigaloo as a piece of jewelry on their bodies. It is a symbol of their caste, but above all, a symbol of their faith. The lingam, the casket, the little aniconic lingam is ceremonially given to a Lingayat child in an initiation ceremony, marking his or her entry into the community. It is then placed into the casket. The casket, of course, depends on the economic status and what the person can afford, and it is carried on the body at all times. The lingam is worshipped every day, and it functions as a medium between the worshipper and their meditation on Shiva. In fact, when a Lingayat dies, the lingam is buried with him or her. Thus, as an example, while it is visually a piece of jewelry, it is worn as a piece of jewelry, it ceases to be a mere object of adornment. I want to just So that was a little clip that I shared from an Utsavam, temple festival in South India. And there he is on the screen in front of you, Lord Shiva, seated in regal splendor, attired in white jamas and a velvet jacket, bejeweled from head to toe. Shiva is in full alamkara. Now the term alamkara in Sanskrit means adornment. It is a term, however, that is most commonly associated with Sanskrit poetics. It is used in the context of the ornamentation of poetry and writing with things like figures of speech, metaphors, and similes. However, Ananda Kumaraswamy, the renowned Indologist, in a seminal essay titled Ornament, used the term alamkara in a wider sense to encompass body decoration and enhancement of beauty with jewels. Just as alamkara elevates poetry and prose, adornment not only with jewels, but with cosmetics, with flowers, with beautiful fabrics, and even tattoos and henna enhances beauty. It enables recognition, it affords pleasure, and it completes the human persona. Now, according to Hindu philosophy, the ultimate reality is known as Brahman. The Brahman is nirguna, that is invisible without any qualities. And this Brahman can only be realized through jnana or knowledge. At which point it becomes Saguna Brahman, that is, it assumes form for us in our minds. It becomes visible, it becomes real, it takes up a persona, it becomes a Rama, it becomes a Shiva, it becomes a Krishna, and the manifold deities that form the Hindu pantheon. By draping images with clothes and adorning them with fabulous jewels, The gods therefore assumed this earthly persona. You can see on the left, Shiva is in Nirguna form. And on the right, he's transformed into a Saguna form, the focal point of bhakti or worship through which the ultimate reality, according to Indian philosophy, the ultimate reality can be realized. Therefore, abharana or adornment with jewels is actually set down in the list of upacharas, that is the rituals prescribed for daily worship in all our agamas, both in the Vaishnava and the Shaiva agamas. These texts prescribe daily worship, deity worship in temples, and adornment with jewels was mandatory, which is why our temples all over India have been the recipients of some of the most fabulous jewels through time. Now, ancient scriptures abound with descriptions of bejeweled gods and goddesses. The Devi Mahatma, which is a 5th century text, recites that aeons ago there was a war between the Devas and Asuras. The Devas lost, and Mahishasura became the lord of the heavens. In desperation, the Devas appealed to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva to help them destroy Mahishasura. Combining their energies, the gods actually brought forth Chandika, the great goddess. They each gave her a weapon, a trident, a discus, the conch, spear, bow and arrow, and you can see it in this beautiful painting on the screen in front of you. But a perfect physical form endowed with all these powerful weapons was not considered enough. So Vishwakarma, the architect of the universe, the supreme patron of the arts, crafts, and sciences, was called forth to give her jewelry. He gave her a celestial crest jewel, a pair of earrings, bracelets, and you can see it here on the right. I put the verses both in Sanskrit and in English. Thus adorned and empowered with jewels, the goddess manifested. She was nirguna without the jewels, and she manifested then in the Saguna form, waged battle over Mahishasura, and emerged victorious. In fact, hairpins in the form of weapons can be seen in these famous terracotta images of the goddess from Bengal, which date to the 2nd century BC, and hairpins decorated with flowers and birds have endured to the present. Outstanding examples, as we all know, reside in the CSMVS as part of the Veena Shroff collection, and many of these beautiful hairpins are on view in the gallery at present. Now, jewelry and gems feature prominently in classical Indian literature through the ages. They served as important elements in a plot. In the Ramayana, for example, Rama's signet ring and Sita's Chudamani, that is her head jewel, plays significant roles in the epic. How so? Sita had never met Hanuman before. So Hanuman, and you can see it in that beautiful painting in front of you, carries Rama is giving him the ring. He carries Rama's ring with him to Lanka to identify himself as Rama's messenger. And in the beautiful little sculpture on the right from the CSMVS, you can see Hanuman dropping Rama's ring to Sita. He's on the tree and he's passing the ring down to Sita so that she can recognize him as her Lord's messenger. In return, Hanuman brings Sita's Chudamani back with him as proof of his meeting with Sita. In the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira's first loss in the gambling session with the Kauravas was a gem. It was a pearl. Gems and jewels functioned as objects of love and beauty and as powerful metaphors of divine power and atonement. In Kalidasa's Abhiyana Shakuntalam, the story of Shakuntala and Dushyanta revolves around a ring, a piece of jewelry. And in the Tamil classic, the Silapadikaram, the story once again centers on gem-encrusted anklets, again, a piece of jewel. Folklore is rich with legends related to gems and jewels. I'm just trying to establish the Protean character of jewelry in India. Surya, the sun god, presented Satrajit, the powerful Syamantaka gem. The gem is believed to have protected its owner from all kinds of danger and showered wealth and immortality. However, it resulted in a fierce battle between Lord Krishna and the bear king Jambavan. And you can see in the painting in front of you on the left side, Jambavan taking the Samantaka gem and giving it to his child. Eventually, Krishna got the gem. In the middle, Vishnu got the resplendent Kaustuba gem from the churning of the ocean. The gem symbolizes pure consciousness, and he wears it on his chest. And you can see it in sculpture after sculpture, the Kaustuba gem in the center of Vishnu's chest. Buddhist texts refer to Chintamani, or the wish-fulfilling gem. And in the Jatakas, it is written that among the 32 good omens manifesting themselves when the Buddha became incarnate, bracelets and other ornaments jingled of themselves. And I put a little detail of one of the pillars of the Sanchi Stupa on the right side of your screen. And you can see on both sides of the panel, beautiful necklaces. The Sanchi Stupas are a veritable treasure house for a jewelry historian like myself. Now, elaborate jewels and adornment are requisite to dance attire. No dance is complete without adornment with jewelry. Whether it's the monumental headdress of Kathakali dancers, the striking masks and jewels of the Theyyam artists, and the majestic hornbill feathers of the Konyak Nagas, all these jewels add in no small measure to the commanding presence of the artist on stage. In fact, Bharata, the author of the Natya Shastra, which is a treatise on performing arts and dates to between about the 2nd century BC and the 2nd century AD, states that, and I'm quoting from the text, success of a dramatic production, ornaments are integral to the success of a dramatic production because they lend beauty to the limbs. He devotes an entire section in the text to ornaments and even lists 4 kinds of ornaments. There are avedya, that which is fixed by piercing, referring to earrings. There is bandhanya, that which is tied up like girdles and armbands. There is prakshepya, ornaments that are worn such as anklets, and aropya, ornaments that are put around such as chains and necklaces. He actually categorizes ornaments that are integral to dance attire. Therefore, the instrumentality of jewelry in constructing the identity of gods and humans in Indian culture is fundamental to understanding the significance and importance of adornment. The act of adornment goes beyond merely dangling beautiful gem set confections to different parts of the body, gold, silver, or any other material. The pluralism of jewelry, whether it's royal or tribal, gold or silver, small or large, is actually revealed in the many layers of meanings and relations that it establishes. Now in India, men wore a lot of jewelry, and men used jewelry to exhibit their power, their virility, as you saw in the image of the Konyak Naga in the earlier slide, as well as their social status. To the Mughal emperors, jewels and gemstones formed the material wealth of their empire. In fact, their treasury was replete with jewels and gemstones. Gold and gems were highly portable. They were used to fund wars. They were used to purchase royal loyalty and, importantly, to bribe the enemy. Turban jewels like the Jigga and Kalgi, the 2 examples that you see in the screen in front of you, and similar to the one that Shah Jahan is holding and admiring, were quintessential symbols of wealth and power. The center jewel is actually from the Nizam of Hyderabad's collection, and purely in material terms is set with a 25-carat table cut diamond in the middle, while the kalgi on the right is actually set in jade with diamonds and rubies. It is today in the State Hermitage Museums, part of the treasures that were taken by Nadir Shah when he plundered the Mughal treasury in 1739. But interestingly, the jewel that Shah Jahan is holding also provides us with valuable information on design and cross-cultural influences that were sweeping through the Mughal Empire in the 17th century. The turn-over ornament, if you look closely at the one that Shah Jahan is holding, and I've circled it in yellow, closely resembles the Renaissance jewel on the immediate right, set with a garnet and peridot. And if you look at the drawing closely below, you can see gargoyles, similar to the ones in the jewel. Let me just point. You can see little gargoyles here on both sides of the gemstone, and you can see here, the gargoyles are here. The drawing is by an artist called Daniel Mignon, a late 17th century German jewelry designer and printmaker. A lot of these prints were actually traveling to India at this time. And there's no doubt that some of these prints might have traveled to India, which acted as a source of inspiration. Mignon designed hat ornaments, and you can see one at the bottom right, with vertical projections that are very similar to the ones on Shah Jahan's jewel. Shah Jahan's jewel, however, is set with a beautiful flat portrait diamond, not unlike the 20.22 carat diamond that I have put on the screen, and surmounted with a large Colombian emerald. Therefore, while the design appears to be of European inspiration, it was adapted and set with Indian jewelry. And that indeed was the genius, on the other hand, of our Indian jewelers, our Indian craftsmen. The best and most prized gemstones in the treasury were reserved for the emperor and the Maharaja. These were set into jewels, most often turban jewels, since when they were draped around the turban and the kalgi or the jiga was stuck into the turban, the jewel was most visible. Imagine in the Darbar hall, with the lights, with the oil lamps flickering, the gemstones would catch the light from the oil lamps, sparkle, and lend almost a supernatural aura to the seated monarch. And that indeed was the reason why, one of the reasons why the most magnificent gemstones in the treasury were set into turban ornaments and were the prerogative of the ruler, the emperor. All the sarpachas that you see on the screen, again from the Nizam of Hyderabad's collection, because some of these are the most fabulous ones to have survived. Sarpachas did not serve, did not live into the late 20th and the early 21st century. They were quickly broken apart and the gemstones sold and the gold recycled into new settings. So the one on top is now in the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston, set with a fabulous collection of Golconda diamonds. The one on the left, the bottom, is set with a carved emerald. And look closely, you'll see two beautiful pink diamonds over here. This is a pink diamond and this is a pink diamond. And the one on the right is set with rubies and spinels. And look at the beautiful diamond briolets at the bottom. All the gemstones from the Nizam's treasury, the Golconda mines were in close proximity, and some of the most fabulous gemstones flowed into the Hyderabad treasury, especially in the 18th and the 19th century. In the Mughal court, the emperor was weighed against gems and jewels, gold and silver coins on his birthday, as you can see in this beautiful painting. That doesn't require any explanation because all of us are familiar with this painting in the British Museum. And the coins and the gold was then distributed. As per court tradition, loyalty to the emperor was expressed by Nazrana, offerings of gold coins, but importantly of jewels you can see the trays of jewels that are kept here at the bottom. So jewels were a very, very important expression of loyalty. This was one of the reasons that such large quantities of gems and jewels flowed into the treasuries. Now, among the pastoral and tribal population of India, jewelry served many functions, saturated with meaning. The teeth of animals, the claws of tigers, horns, tusks, feathers, and even the hair of animals, for example, elephant hair, were worn as ornaments, perhaps motivated by the metempsychic belief, that is the belief in rebirth of the soul after death, that the creature's courage, the tiger's courage, the elephant's courage, maybe the horn of a rhinoceros, the rhinoceros's courage, fierceness and power would pass to the wearer, projecting man's primacy over the animals at a time when people lived, by hunting and had to protect themselves from these beasts. Nature, of course, provided an unending supply of not only raw materials, but also design inspiration. The brightly colored feathers of birds, the iridescent wings of insects, for example, beetle wings, the seeds that provided nourishment, vibrant and intoxicatingly perfumed flowers, and even fruits, leaves, vines, all became a part of human attire. And you can see the examples on the screen in front of you. There's a tiger's claw necklace from the Victoria and Albert Museum. The necklace on the left is composed of shells made out of the shank. The one at the bottom is claws of some unknown animal. And the trophy head necklace on the right is been carved from wood. In fact, trophy head necklaces were the prerogative of the Konyak Naga tribes. And it is believed that the number of heads on the necklace was indicative of the number of heads that was actually won by the warrior, that was taken by the warrior. So he was allowed to commemorate his courage and his power by having these heads carved from wood and to wear it as a symbol of his status and power in society. Now, the multifaceted character of Indian jewelry is not only pan-Indian, but it goes back in time to the very beginning. I mean, this is not something that happened in the 18th and the 19th century, but goes back to where it all began, the dawn of civilization here in India. The lady on the screen, of course, needs no introduction, the bronze girl from Mohenjo-daro. She stands, and if you look closely, her left arm stacked with jewels, with bangles from the wrist to the shoulder, her right wrist adorned with bangles, as well as an armband, and around her neck, a necklace that was probably strung with beautiful carnelian beads, not unlike the example on the right, on the immediate right. The necklace and the two necklaces are among the earliest Indian jewels. They are actually more than 4,000 years old, discovered in Mohenjo-daro. While the necklace on the left is strung with jade, agate, jasper, and gold beads, the one on the right is strung with agate, turquoise, faience, and flat gold beads. Now, while they appear purely decorative, the jewels actually tell us a lot. They are more than jewels, just objects of adornment. India was the bead manufacturing center of the ancient world. Hundreds of thousands of beads in different shapes and sizes, crafted from a wide variety of semi-precious stones, have been recovered from excavations of Indus sites. Indian beads have been discovered in large quantities on the west coast of Africa, in Egypt, in Mesopotamia, and other areas, testifying to the trade on one hand, the contacts that India had with such far-flung areas around the world, as well as the technology and immense skill of the lapidaries of that time. I mean, look at the bead necklaces, look at the manner in which they have been crafted, all handmade, all meticulously crafted by people using tools that we don't even have at hand today. I think, again, this piece requires no introduction. No single piece testifies to the knowledge, skill, and belief better than this tiny bull amulet. It's an amulet fashioned from Bandada Gate. I think it was the star attraction of the India and the World exhibition. At least it was to me. I was absolutely stunned when I saw this miniature bull. For me, look at the rough stone from which it must have been carved, which I have shown alongside, and imagine the vision of the lapidarist who held a similar rough in his hand almost 4,000 years ago and saw the form of this tiny little amulet bull embedded within. The tiny bull must undoubtedly serve as a powerful talisman. Now, sculptures through antiquity testify that while human figures might be devoid of clothing, they are almost never devoid of jewels. I have yet to come across a sculpture that is not adorned with jewelry. From almost every period in Indian history, even images of the Buddha, as you can see on the one on the right side at the bottom, although they are devoid of ornamentation, his elongated earlobes, the long earlobes, are telling reminders of the massive earrings that he must have worn as Prince Siddhartha. However, Bodhisattva figures, such as the Maitreya on the screen, wear exquisite jewels. Headbands, flat talks around the neck, armbands, and necklaces strung with amulets, like the example that I have shown. The octagonal amulet box dates to between the 2nd and the 4th century from Gandhara, and the two pendants on the right with figures of Hariti, the goddess of fertility. They have been crafted from gold and inset with red stones that are actually garnets. Again, the jewelry tells us so much about India in this period, not only in terms of craftsmanship skills, but India was the major source of garnets in the ancient world, right through to the medieval period. And the large number of garnets that appear in Byzantine jewels are all believed to come from India. In fact, they were one of the most important gemstones that were traded along the Silk Road. Garnet mines were actually in modern day Telangana and in Rajasthan. Now, precious gems, garnets were one, of course. We already saw all the semi-precious stones that were cut and exported from India to far-flung corners of the world. Precious gems formed an important luxury trade commodity, both on the land Silk Road as well as on the maritime Silk Road that connected Afghanistan to India and China, westwards to the Mediterranean and on to the Roman Empire. Now, the two rings on the screen were both discovered in Afghanistan. They are set with gems that are traded up from the south of India. They are both set with diamonds. The ring on the left is perhaps the earliest published piece of jewelry set with diamonds. It was found in a 4th century BC site known as Aigaloo, an important city in Greco-Bactria. Archaeological finds from this site indicate evidence of the extensive trade between the Greek world and India. The center, these are diamonds on either side, whereas the center stone is a pink sapphire believed to have originated from Sri Lanka. The diamonds came from the Deccan Plateau, undoubtedly from the Golconda mines. The ring on the right also is set with a diamond, and all three diamonds are in their octahedral form, merely polished around the edges to lend sparkle to the gemstone. Now, I think both jewels are historically important and irrefutably established that diamonds were known in India 600 years before the Common Era. India was the home of diamonds and supplied the world with this gem for more than 2,000 years, right up to the discovery of diamond mines in Brazil in the 18th century. As a jewelry historian, I often wondered if the fabulous jewels represented on sculptures were real or a figment of the sculptor's imagination. Now, these royal jewels in the Metropolitan Museum date to the 1st century BC, and they prove me wrong. The earrings are made from sheet gold, decorated with a winged elephant, a lion, an elephant, and a vase containing 3 palmets. The figures are all done of repoussé work and decorated with minute granules and wire. They are crafted with incredible complexity and precision, again, testimony to the superb quality of goldsmithing. The techniques of filigree, that is working with fine wire, and granulation are believed to have been introduced to Indian goldsmiths by Greek craftsmen who traveled to India with Alexander the Great. They in turn are believed to have learned it from the Etruscans. Now, because of the lack of survival of gold objects, it is to the sculptures that we must look in order to understand the abundance and extravagance of the jewelry worn at the time. And the Yakshi on the right from Bharut is wearing what appears to be an identical pair of earrings. A similar earring is also carved in the sandstone railing, the detail of which I have shown below. Incidentally, the earrings are believed to have been found in an archaeological excavation, not in India, but probably either in Java or Myanmar, that is Burma. There is another single piece in a collection now in Bangkok. So look at the dispersal of ornament forms across that wide geographical area at that time. Now, as I said, once again, another favorite piece in the CSMVS, incidentally. Corroboration of real pieces with representation in sculptures and paintings is extremely rare, since so few ancient pieces have survived. The jewel that you see on the screen in front of you is an extremely rare and beautiful head ornament. It was in storage until we started working on the jewelry gallery. The only information available in museum records was that it was found during excavation for the construction of a boat jetty on Elephanta Island. Now, based on stylistic features, the technique of the gem setting and so on, I initially dated the jewel to between the 4th and the 5th century. We then turned our attention to the gemstones, and I suspected perhaps could the white stones perhaps be diamonds? The green gems I thought might be beryls, because the green beryls were also abundantly found in India. The gems were then tested by the CSMBS lab with fascinating results. The white stones turned out to be white sapphires, therefore undoubtedly from Sri Lanka, while the green gems actually tested as emeralds. Now, my mind started working because emeralds are not indigenous to India, and the only other 2 sources in that period were the Cleopatra mines in Egypt and the Panjshir Valley in Afghanistan. There was a vibrant Indo-Roman trade in this period, and my guess is that the green emeralds were most likely from Egypt. A couple of months ago, I did a presentation, and I included this slide in my presentation, and a professor of archaeogemology, a German professor from Munich, wrote to me extremely excitedly saying that in all probability, in fact, he was almost sure that the emeralds were from the eastern desert of Egypt, that is from the Cleopatra mines from a region known as Mount Zebara. He further wrote, and I am quoting from his letter, "I never saw any object in India or Sri Lanka and even the early Islamic world from that period with this type of emerald, since in spite of the large quantities that were mined, none have survived." And then looking at Ajanta paintings, I discovered what appears to be almost an identical, and I've again circled it over here, identical or similar jewel on the head of a woman in a palace scene. Design, manufacture, the gemstones, their representation in a painting, all came together for me to establish an accurate dating of the object. Sadly, such eureka moments for a jewelry historian are extremely rare, and when they do occur, they are moments to be treasured and never forgotten. Now, in 1498, Vasco da Gama discovered the direct sea route to India, and the Portuguese established the Estado de India. Goa was teeming with merchants. It was, in fact, the gem trading center of the ancient world. The two visuals that you see on the screen display the perfect synthesis of the artistic dialogue between Goa and Europe, for they are modeled on Renaissance pendants with sea monsters, and you can see a 16th century European example on the right. Now, the visual on top has a makara, again indigenized, Indianized, with Indian iconography, Indian gems, Indian gem setting techniques. The one on top has a makara or crocodile head, a rock crystal body. The gems are kundan set, a technique that is very, very special and specific to India. Kundan set with rubies and sapphires. And the bottom vessel, also from the same period, that is the late 16th century, again with typical Deccani elements such as the Partaji kam, the detailed inscribed work on the gold. The gemstones are set in a very typical South Indian technique. The rubies are cabochon, and they include unpolished rough octahedral diamond crystals, again indigenous to India, indigenous to the Deccan. Also made in Goa is this beautiful Baroque pearl pendant of a snake deity, a Nagadevta. According to Indian mythology, again, mythology, stories, all come together in a piece of jewelry. It's a great piece of jewelry, but it tells a story that goes beyond it being a mere piece of adornment. According to Indian mythology, Vasuki, the king of serpent deities, known as the Nagas, possesses a powerful gem, the Nagamani, embedded in his forehead. And you can see the emerald that is embedded on the forehead of this beautiful piece of jewelry. The torso is composed of an exceptionally large Baroque saltwater pearl, something again that was very popular in Europe in this time, the use of Baroque pearls in jewelry, while the knotted tails are encrusted with rubies, diamonds, emeralds, and cobalt blue glass that simulates sapphire. Now, snake worship is widespread in India, and people believe that snakes are endowed with divine qualities and symbolized immortality and fertility. And snake ornaments, snake jewels appear in practically every part of India, which is very, very rich in vegetation. In Kerala, for example, or in the Northeast, for example. And this slide is just to show you a collection of jewelry which incorporates the Naga, the snake. There are hair ornaments, there are earrings, there's even this fabulous necklace from Kerala known as the Naga Padatali, the snake hood necklace. Now, emeralds poured into India from the 16th century after the arrival of the Portuguese and the discovery of emerald mines in Colombia in South America. The Mughals were passionately fond of the green gem. Emeralds are extremely brittle and difficult to carve, and the bead on the left from the Al-Sabah collection attests to the extraordinary genius of the gem cutter. Again, here he held a rough piece of emerald in his hand, and he was able to see a narcissus blossom in the rough bead. And it's carved in such three-dimensional realism. And he was able to place the flower so perfectly in that rough bead and with such delicate precision. The story of the hexagonal emerald on the right, look closely at the gem. It is carved in minute detail. It depicts a female figure. I said emeralds are very difficult to carve, and look at the quality of the carving on this emerald. Now, the images have been variously interpreted as being of Shiva and Parvati or Radha and Krishna. But to me, the inspiration for the image, the whole composition, probably lies in paintings of the Madonna and Child of the Grapes that you can see on the right side, a 17th century work by Pierre Mignard. While obviously such paintings, perhaps as prints, were coming to India, but while the theme is European, the stylistic characteristics of the images, the manner in which the rubies are kundan set, adapted to probably show Radha and Krishna. Radha, Krishna as the child on her lap, accepting being given grapes by the mother, is typically Indian. Now, such portraits were even presented by European ambassadors to the Mughal court. The emerald actually was reset into a brooch with the addition of the baguette diamonds on top by Cartier for Maharani Gayatri Devi of Jaipur in 1937. Now, ornaments were objects of seduction and allurement. In Vatsyayana's Kama Sutra, women were required to have knowledge of gold, silver, and gems. They had to know how to string necklaces. They had to know how to design beautiful jewels. So while jewels were worn to satisfy a desire to look beautiful, the sound of tinkling bells in anklets, the sparkle of a diamond in the nose, flower blossom earrings, all, of course, enhanced the sensuality of a woman. Most beautifully expressed in this painting of Radha and Krishna from the Punjab hills. Radha, as you can see, is draped only in a sheer dupatta, but is adorned with all her jewels. And nobody expresses it more beautifully than Jayadeva in the Gita Govinda. I'm not going to read the verse, it speaks for itself. I have put it on the right side of the screen for you all to read and enjoy and revel in the beauty of the words, all of which link the jewelry that is worn not only for adornment, but serves a purpose beyond. Now, jewels were not merely objects of femininity, sexual allurement, but jewels importantly display anonymity. They proclaim caste, religion, and ethnic identity, even communicate an individual's region of origin. And this is particularly so among the pastoral and tribal communities. The two massive silver tops, barred low, on the screen in front of you are worn by Rabari and Fakirani Jat women in Gujarat and Rajasthan. In fact, nobody outside the community will be caught wearing this because it was really a caste identifier. Similarly, male members can be recognized by the single horseshoe-shaped Bavaria earring on top, worn almost exclusively by Jat and the Rabari and Banjara men, and the Gokru at the bottom, which is actually found all along the path of the nomadic travels, which stretches across from Gujarat, Rajasthan, into Madhya Pradesh, and even the borders of Himachal Pradesh. Strikingly abstract Tandati and Pambadam on the left are unique to Vellalar women in rural Tamil Nadu, and large rings, the one on the right, joined with faceted beads are exclusive. They are known as Meka Modaram and are exclusive to Syrian Christian women in Kerala. Sadly, a lot of these ornaments are fast vanishing, going out of fashion, and the younger generation, the younger women are not interested in keeping up with these fashions. The marriage necklace is one of the most important rite of passage jewels for a woman. The one on the left is a magnificent Mangal Sutra, as known as the Kalituru. It's from Chettinad in South India. It is the marriage necklace of the Natukottai Chettiar community. It is made up of massive pendants. In fact, some of these weigh in excess of 500 grams, half a kilo of gold. The claw-like pendants that you can see, these claw-like pendants, in fact, are believed to derive from actually shells, crab shells, stylized in gold from a time when this seafaring community lived in ancient Kaveri Pumpattinam, Pumpuhar, the city on the coast that is believed to have, vanished into the sea due to a tsunami during the Sangam era. The jewel on the right is the Gauri Shankaram. Again, there were 3 fabulous Gauri Shankarams on exhibition when the jewelry gallery opened at the CSMVS. Again, a prerogative of male members of the Chettiar community. It is an expression and an affirmation of their devotion to Shiva. In fact, inside this little pendant over here is a double Rudraksha, symbolizing the union between Shiva and Parvati. And the pendants, both at the front and the back, are worked in extremely rich repousse, usually depicting an image of Nataraja, Shiva dancing the Pandava. And the beads that you see, the gold beads, are actually Rudraksha beads, which are encased in gold. Ornaments enhanced fertility. They protected against the unsettling effects of the planets. They served as talismans against the all-pervading evil eye, as you can see in the example of the pendants, just an assembly of pendants on the screen in front of you. Now, Indian myth states that gemstones came forth from the dismembered body of the demon Bala, who offered himself as a sacrifice to Indra, the god of gods. His teeth were transformed into pearls, his bones into diamonds, eyes into sapphires, and so on. Now, these 5 gems are the Maharatnas, or the great gems of Indian jewelry. And the planetary bodies, it is believed, usurped these gems for themselves. Therefore, a necklace or a pendant or a ring or an armband set with the 9 planetary gems, the Navaratna, might look colorful and visually attractive. And the 9 gems by themselves, however, do not work any magic. They are arranged in a very, very particular order, traditionally with a ruby that you can see on the necklace on the left, symbolizing the sun in the center. Thus set, the jewel becomes a cogent entity. It is capable of harnessing the energies of the cosmos and protecting the body of the individual. The striking amulet on the right is also set with Navaratnas, but interestingly here, the emerald takes the place of the sun. Perhaps because the jewel came from the treasury of Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore, and to the Muslims, the green emerald symbolized immortality. It was a symbol of paradise. It was a symbol of life hereafter. So the ruby symbolizing the sun was replaced with the emerald in this particular piece of jewelry. And I've just listed the different gemstones that form the Navaratna scheme at the bottom. Now, such assignments were not just metaphorical, but physiological as well in an Indian, branch of traditional Indian medicine known as Marma Shastra. The science maintained that there are vital energy points that are located along the body through which energy flows. And gentle pressure and stimulation of these points actually enables the flow of the energy. It enhances fertility and releases energies that contribute to physical and emotional well-being. Interestingly, the Marma points in the body are located in all the points on which we wear jewelry in India, right from the top of the head, where we wear an ornament along the parting of the hair, a mang tika, or the jadai nagam at the back, the earrings, necklaces which rest and stimulate the thyroid that lies at the base of the throat, armbands, right down to the toe, which is encased in a toe ring, again, which is believed to aid a woman in procreation and in easy delivery. In fact, it is even believed that men who pierce their ears, it was healthy for men to pierce their ears because it protected their prostate from any disease. So therefore, both men and women here wore earrings. As I said, it was not just enough to pierce just the earlobe of the ear, but the scapha, the helix, the outer rim of the auricle were all pierced in the belief that it opened the mind to learning, it broadened the intellect, it enhanced fertility. Similarly, armbands were worn around a vital energy point in the body. It was also important, the choice of material is important. Both the armbands on the screen in front of you are fashioned from jade. Jade had powerful talismanic properties and was believed to confer immortality on the wearer. So the beautiful one on the left, again, it was just not enough to wear a piece of jade around your arm. The jade was transformed into a beautiful object, a beautiful piece of adornment. The one on the top left, which is inset with gold and with rubies and emeralds, and the one on the right, which is carved in the form of a flower. Absolutely. Look at the nature of the carving and the plasticity with which the lapidarist was able to carve the gem. Now, silver, gold, and copper served as the earliest currency. There was little indigenous gold and silver, and vast volume of India's trade with Africa, the Arab world, Persia, the Ottoman Empire, and so on, resulted in large amounts of gold and silver flowing into India. Coins, while the use of coins in jewelry was an expression of lucre on the body, most importantly, the coin necklace, the Kashimale from South India, the one on the right, the Hullad from Gujarat, the Rupiah Har, or you can see the Bastar woman from Madhya Pradesh, is actually a pan-Indian jewel, and it points to the large area with which the wearer was in contact. One must remember that there was a lot of movement across the country, whether it was for trade, whether it was for seeking greener pastures, for nomads to graze their cattle. They carried their savings that was held in the form of coins with them, and the coins were converted into ornaments. There were no banks at that time, and they were worn, and they could be easily liquidated to cash if the need arose. Now, before I conclude, a brief word on gold and silver, the two metals that are most commonly associated with Indian jewelry. Gold and silver are just not gold and silver, two metals. Both metals are born of the earth and sky. They're symbols of the sun and the moon, gold of the sun, silver of the moon. Gold was not only rare, it was also a noble metal. It was considered ritually pure. The yellow color of gold is akin to the effulgent sun. Again, the sun, which is life-giving, regenerative. A piece of gold on the skin was believed to grant longevity, facilitate the flow of prana or life breath in the body. It was a symbol of goddess Lakshmi or wealth. Now, since the nose, you can see a set of nose rings on the left side of the screen. Since the nose is the gateway of prana, nose ornaments are almost always only made of gold. On the right, silver, symbol of the moon. Silver symbolized water, a most precious commodity because of its powerful necessity as nomadic tribes moved across the desert. Silver was also a powerful conductor of heat and cold. It protected the body against infections and healed wounds. So in the cold of winter, silver heat retained body heat. And in the heat of summer, silver allowed the body to be cool. Both gold and silver are very versatile materials. They are extremely malleable and ductile, and small amounts could be worked with great versatility. I conclude with these unusual pair of armbands. Now, as we have seen, foreign influences appeared in Indian jewelry from the Hellenistic world, from Greece, from Rome, from Persia, from Europe. All these influences have been assimilated into Indian ornament forms while still retaining the essence of what ornament and adornment is in India. Motifs, techniques, and even jewelry types became a part of the Indian language of adornment. Now, in the 19th century era of the British Raj, jewels functioned as a means of expressing allegiance to the king and the British Empire. While some Maharajas wore fabulous tiaras and others reset their ancestral jewels in the modern idiom, like did, the Maharaja of Patiala. The examples in front of you, the Nawab of Bengal literally wore his loyalty on his sleeves. These unusual bazubans are from Murshidabad, and they are designed in the form of coat of arms of Nawab Nazim of Murshidabad, Bengal. Crafted from gold, they are set with diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. Again, the design and workmanship typically of the European influences in Indian jewels in this period. In conclusion, thus, the drama of socialization enacted by jewelry is inherent to the body in India. In its most simplistic roles, jewels make the body complete and attractive. However, in the largest context of human life, gems and jewels were bulwarks against the vicissitudes of droughts, floods, wars, and invasions. Jewels served as security. They protected, they repelled evil, they attracted good. Jewels beautified, they proclaimed wealth, they signified marriage, they symbolized power. Ultimately, I think what is important is jewels, like we saw in some of the early slides, jewels transform sacred to temporal, human to divine. To be devoid of ornamentation is to be invisible and unprotected. Thank you.